Okay, let's talk about the long-term propaganda on 5G networks and Huawei's and the consequent banning by the U.S. of Huawei and the interference of the U.S. with the 5G networks and Huawei's and other Chinese corporations, telecommunications corporations in in the EU and elsewhere in the world. Um if you have been even mildly paying attention, you know that there's been that whole propaganda nonsense about 5G networks and how they there's been a connection with causing brain cancers and all sorts of other stuff. Uh, and the thing is the more and more I've been looking into it, the more and more research I've done into it, I'm starting to find out that there is no peer-reviewed or look into this that has uh, that has basically said, there's legitimacy to this. Um, Actually, I said it. I think I said it wrong. Basically, peer review basically is saying that there's nothing to it. Uh, there's no uh, there's no conclusive evidence showing that there's a connection to 5G networks network signals that cause these sorts of um, wacky things claimed about it. And this has been going on for a while. And there's a lot of people, especially in the United States and in the Western countries, who've been sold this bag of garbage. Um, the other thing is the consequences to Huawei and ZTE and uh, Chinese telecommunication companies. Um, my understanding is that Huawei was the first to come out with the 5G patent. My also from my research, my understanding is that Huawei has licensed out its 5G technology um, to telecommunication companies all over the world, and whatever whoever has been licensed uh, is using in some way or form Huawei's core uh, parts of the 5G technology and the 5G infrastructure uh, technology. So, and that includes even China's ZTE. Um, so, uh, now, Huawei was the first to come out with the 5G technology and the first to patent it. So basically, I use T-Mobile. So T-Mobile is basing its 5G network on a core part or whole of Huawei's um, patent holdings. So uh, this is this will affect the speed, uh, the interconnectivity, the the processing, and all that other stuff. So you get so by doing this, uh, cutting out Huawei and interfering in Huawei's interaction in putting up the 5G networks, um, as well as using the uh, patent rights that have been licensed, will affect the whole. So you're doing you're basically cutting cutting your foot off, and hobbling yourself. Um, so I'm glad to see that Huawei is taking legal action, uh, because the Swiss have done basically what the UK did at the by the egging of the US. And so, and understand something, when they do this sort of stuff, it has nothing to do with the population. They don't make the decision. They're not seeing the whole of it. And so this is to protect the self-interest of those who are in power. Okay, so whenever I talk about the U.S., and how bad the policies and the foreign and the interference and all that other stuff, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about because I certainly don't have any say in it. You know, in the so-called democracy, I can't, I don't have any power to do that. And the only way people in the United States and the West are going to get that power uh, is to stop listening to the lying mafia. That's the lying political and media and and business mafia that's have controlling interests in the so-called governments of our so-called democracies. Um, their actions are criminally insane. They act like the violent, repressive mafias that we see in our movies and television shows. Um, so understand that's what all this is. Um, the whole uh, PR propaganda, bad mouthing of China and all these other countries that you know that don't that are in some way or other uh, cutting off or infringing on on uh, the the economic and political and other avenues of influence to have controlling interests and power uh, in those countries. That's basically what it boils down to. And so, if there's a nefarious, malicious actors, it is the Western elites, the self-appointed Western elites, the ones who have used all sorts of ways to suppress actual democracies and in their so-called democracies, who have made it so that they have controlling ways to get those who will protect the interests of the ruling self-appointed ruling elites. That is basically what it is. So there are no free and fair elections in the West. Uh, None whatsoever. The constant claims that every other freaking country in the world is is a dictatorship or authoritarians and they don't have free and fair. That's complete and utter projection. Uh, they are the West is the ones who are the dictators. The West is are the ones who support dictators. The West is are the ones who suppress and repress true democracy. The West are the ones who they might as well be feudal lords and monarchs, because that's what it is. Aside from them calling themselves republics and democracies and their system of capitalism, that's exact. It is nothing more than feudalism without actually calling it feudalism. So, uh, and that's the understanding I have come to. I have come to from my research and from looking into things. And so uh, we live in a lie, um, and we all get impacted because the politics of these self-appointed mafia feudal lords and ladies, the ones who have decided they're the have the sole legitimate right to dictate policy, uh, who are robbing us of political, financial, monetary, and resources, from your water to your energy to the things that you buy. Um, uh, it's pervasive. It's universally pervasive, and and the way they do it is to keep their societies divided or united in in a fashion where, like the examples of the Scandinavian and Norwegian, uh, with their uh, with their sovereign funds, which are which are uh, uh, funded by their activities that destroy, uh, kill, pillage, and plunder uh, in the so-called third world or the global south, uh, such as banning fracking in their countries, but fracking in in Central America or South America or in Africa or elsewhere is perfectly fine. Destroying the ecosystem and communities, uh, and environment. That's perfectly fine. Uh, that is the sort of things that the so-called West uh, essentially boils down to. So even if you are living in the United States and uh, you have a semblance of financial and monetary security, as well as a certain amount of privileged status, you're still you're still uh, not controlling. You have no you have no you have no power because uh, simply having financial or monetary security that allows you to have a better home or more uh, in the material arena. Uh, the laws, policies, and rules and statutes are going to be there that will keep you from reaching a plateau where you won't be able to achieve more, and you won't be able to get access to more power and more influence. And power and influence in the West is basically control by the few. That's basically what it comes down to. Control by the few for the few. And the rest are nothing more than serfs, slaves, commodities. That's basically what it comes to. That's what the West idea of democracy is. That's what it basically boils down to. Fuck the rest of you. Fuck the rest of you. We'll do what we want when we want, and there's nothing you can fucking do about it. And so just bow down and take it. That's basically the mafia feudal capitalism system that the West calls a republic and democracy, and that is what they mean when they're talking about democracy, representative democracy, and representative republic. That is exactly what the West means, and that's not the Western people; it's the Western ruling few. So, understand. I mean, Ericsson, Nokia, in Switzerland, when Swiss banned Huawei and other Chinese companies from the 5G infrastructure, they spoke out against it. So this is a prime example. Ericsson, Nokia they're big players in the Swiss telecommunications, but even though they're big players there, their so-called government is basically telling them to fuck off. So you got to understand. You got to understand. You could be worth a few billion in your country, but if the ruling the self-appointed ruling elites decide something, you're shit out of luck. That's what it basically comes down to. And that doesn't sound like democracy. Not the democracy that's been sold to me. So understand, we do not live in a democracy. We have no power, and until we come together, collectively understand this sort of thing, and we force our will, our collective solidarity of will, nothing will change, and we will just be busy denigrating ourselves amongst ourselves, repressing and suppressing amongst ourselves, being divided rather than cohesively collective, and basically telling our self-appointed elites to fuck off and get out and pay for their criminality. That's what it basically boils down to. And the more I'm learning about China, they have more democracy. They have more true democracy than we do. But we're being sold that, China is the dictator. Iran is the dictator. Venezuela is the dictator. Cuba is the dictator. Russia is the dictator. Everybody's a fucking dictator, an authoritarian, and a Nazi, a fascist, except for the actual Nazi fascist. which is us in the West. Well, not us, but it is the ruling elites of the West, and a lot of the corporations are are invested in this shit. Learn history, real history, not what's taught to you in the textbooks when you in social studies or uh, or in the higher education centers where you have so-called professors and everything else who are completely criminally biased already and selling you a pack of lies, while others, and then there are others who are actually giving you sourced, real history in the higher education, but they're the ones being suppressed and repressed from giving you out the actual real history. And this is where the think tanks, NGOs, and all these other so-called, like the Atlantic Council and CPAC and every other nefarious actors who are funded by the big money, big wealth, who have been given a green light, have been green lighted by the ruling elites, the self-appointed ruling. That's what it is. And if you study about feudalism, that is exactly how it was done in the feudal times. Exactly. You think because we have modern media that sort of stuff didn't happen? Thing is there was no town criers who put out proclamations, but they didn't. And these proclamations back then, it wasn't the perception of proclamations is that, oh, it was a proclamation. It was more like, oh, we're informing you of this, we're letting you know of this and what's happening. That's how the propaganda worked. Or town cry is standing out, and this is even during the earlier colonial period before the United States becoming the United States. They would have these town criers. Basically, what it was is they were paid rumor mongers and disinformation. And a lot of times they didn't, these sort of didn't even know what the didn't even know that they were being given this, and if they weren't paid, they were ordered. But in some sort of way they were. So what it boils down to is that we exist in a vacuum of utter ignorance. Our perceptions are false and betraying us. They are lying to us because the whole social ecosphere has been promoted, indoctrinated. It's been conditioned to have us think this way. With the advent of modern media, of the big print and the radio and television and internet, we that has become more pervasive, more uh, there has been a more solid grip. And until we throw it all out, until we dismiss it, and until we actually work to to chisel down and whittle away the ignorance, we will we are harming ourselves individually and collectively, and we are allowing the real criminals, the true criminals, to steal and and uh, to con us out of the common natural resources and community solidarity away from us, and it's treason, and that they always use by saying to us, "Oh, Americans, 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 Americans." Meanwhile, they're lying to us and sending us out to go fight, fight and kill and murder and pillage and plunder for their profit. And when I talk about profit, I'm not talking about simply about money. I'm talking about political, social, economic. They profit in all that way in resources. We don't get it. They get it. And even in the Scandinavian and the Nordic, that those sovereign funds, while they do fund for a better domestic material security, massive amount of that is actually funneled, embezzled out, and contributes to those to the criminals who are giving you the surface level material security, but they're bleeding away many of the other securities, which is harming the collective society as well as the environment. Most importantly, the environment. It's helping to destroy the environment. Even if the practices that are destroying the environment is being done thousands of miles away, the nature doesn't stand still, just like we don't stand still. How the air moves, how the biodiversity moves, how the waters move, how we move, how our transportation system and the fuels how we move, how we contaminate. It doesn't matter. And the thing is that's basically what it boils down to. You may have a superficial material security, but how your food is produced, what processes the foods are doing, what the so-called transportation infrastructure, and how we produce the consumer, what we consume, what we buy. That all impacts, and a lot of that is damages us collectively. It hurts us collectively. This is why we have an ecological, environmental, and climate catastrophe, where biodiversity is dying out by the billions. Why we have a massive decrease in bee populations and other insects and animals who contribute to the pollination. Why we have oceanic and freshwater acidification. Why we have climate change. Not climate change, climate catastrophe. Why we have an increase in asthma and autism and cancers and the very pandemic right now. Why we have a global pandemic? Because we are destroying the natural order, and why it's so having material security in the immediate, but it's going to ultimately collapse the ability of us to live on the planet and exist on the planet. It, how is that sane? How is that right? How is that good? How is that moral? How is that ethical? And that is why I say do not pay attention to your media. Do not pay attention on your social media to those who are funded, given money to spew their propaganda, lies, and nonsense. Their TYT, and then there's individuals that are paid. So people need to really, really look into it. So, and become more self-aware so that they can say, okay, so this person is genuine. They are making efforts to think things through, and in giving you uh, uh, factual uh, sourced information, while others are just subjective trash. Subjective meaning individual subjective trash, which serves the interests of the self-appointed ruling elites, who are doing everything to just give themselves the power and influence and control, which is criminally insane, as it's completely and utterly destructive to us collectively. That's what it basically boils down to. And it doesn't matter about your happiness in the present. It matters how we progress, how we learn, how we view, how we think, how we come together collectively, because the collective perceptions are the right collective perceptions, because it's based on truth, it's based on facts, it's based on reality of source, and the ability to be able to consume this and understand. That is something the West does not do well. Actually, almost is non-existent, and that is what has been exported from the West to the rest of the world. And now we are seeing countries like China, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba, um, and all these historically enemies of the West, who are starting to show. Vietnam. You can include Vietnam. You know, all these places. They're starting to show that putting cracks. You know, they're starting to show the collective cohesion, and and their populations are getting more uh, are getting better informed, and we need to do that. The U.S. and West put the pink tide. They put that term pink tide, and so and that's generated propaganda, because it's not a pink tide. It's it's waking up. It's starting to see the dramatic, horrific impacts, and and driving driving the people to look outside and start to conceive of these malicious and devious narratives and conditioning. That's what we need to start to do, and otherwise we're just asleep. We're just asleep. When you are asleep at the wheel and you crash and cause a huge catastrophe. That's basically what it comes down to. We have to wake up and we have to start seeing things, and we have to start investing, aggressively investing in deconditioning ourselves, and so we can see the truth. So we don't say there are no truths. Something my father said. I'm like, what? There's no truths? Then what the hell's what the then if there's no truth, then why the fuck do we have laws? Why the fuck do we care? Where is ethics? Where is morality? If there's no truth, there's nothing like that. There's no reality. Reality becomes whatever the fuck we want. And laws and rules and all the common laws, common rules, common things are meaningless. It means I can go out and fucking shoot somebody, stab somebody, rape somebody, go in and steal and burn down. That's basically what it means. If you say there are no truths, there is no fact. There are no facts. It's whoever's the most violent and most and has the power to enforce their violence. That's what no truth, no facts means. That's comes down to pure individualism. It makes that whole show. God, I can't think of it. It's the one with the zombie apocalypse. The Walking Dead. That's basically what it comes down to, and that's basically what the conditioning. When I'm talking about conditioning and indoctrination has come down to in the West, especially in the United States, Australia, and UK. That is where people like Jair Bolsonaro pop up, and Juan Guaido, and these two are in the global south. Global south. These are the people that these nefarious, villainous actors that our so-called government picks to rule over, but be ruled by our ruling elites. And they cause a massive amount of damage. I mean, Brian Berletic of New Atlas, who which used to be called Land Destroyers, before it became New Atlas. That's what Brian Berletic talks about his the country that he's made home, Thailand, where the where the where the interference in Thailand's domestic political um, um, political sovereignty comes in. You have so-called so-called Thai people who are working with the ruling elites of the West to destroy their own countries, causing committing atrocities by using the power that they got with their systems. This is look at the Jingjing Lee's channel and her interview with Brian Boledic, or go directly to Brian Boledic's channel, New Atlas, and uh, um, you know we need to uh, look at the true investigative sources like the Gray Zone, Mint Press, BT, BTN, uh, 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 um, Daniel Dumbrell, uh, Brian Berletic, Abby Martin of Empire Files. uh, Lee Camp also often brings out critical information. We have to be able to recognize these sort of things. And the only way to do that is to invest in deconditioning ourselves, in breaking away from the indoctrination, and being radical truth finders and truth seekers. Otherwise, there are no truths, there are no facts, which means laws, rules, common laws, common rules are meaningless. Common ethics and common morality are meaningless. It means that we should be able to just do whatever the fuck we want, and there shouldn't be any consequence. But even after saying that, thing is there are, because the ruling elites dictate what are laws that are applicable and what are rules that are applicable, and they are not common laws, common rules, common ethics, common morality. They are subjective, meaning they can those rules, laws, statutes are completely meaningless for the vast majority of us if the ruling elites, the self-appointed ruling elites, dictate that it does not apply to you. That's basically what it comes down to. And that doesn't sound like a republic. That doesn't sound like a representative republic. That doesn't sound like a representative democracy. What the West needs is a revolution. What the West needs is a collective solidarity. Coming together and saying, we are the rulers. We are the ones who determine collectively what takes place, what happens, and you have no place in it.